Hi, Joe.
Hello, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. So good to have you here. And hi to our listeners now or in the future. So, I'm really excited for this conversation. So, Joe Fuggle is here, and he is a former junior GB athlete and entrepreneur, the founder of the Athlete Place, which is a digital education platform which is very popular with various schools and governing bodies. And I met Joe via England Athletics, so he was sharing his business and what it brings with a young athletes, so which is amazing. And I would love to hear Joe's perspective on intensity.
Thank you for having me. How exciting. I've been thinking about this a lot over the last few days, and I think for me and for everyone, intensity can have many different reasons and meanings. But for me, the thing that's been kind of pulling me the most has been that intensity is when things and your mind and your body is telling you that things are getting harder, when you need to push more than day-to-day regular tasks. I think it's quite easy in life to kind of take things as they come. And when things get busy, when things get hectic, or when you're kind of battling burnout, it's almost quite hard to take a step back and to realize that things can be different. And for me, looking back, whether that's from my athletic experience or from my kind of business experience now, that there's levels to what's hard and what's easy. And for me, the intensity side of things tells me that I need to work harder. I need to think more about my systems and my processes and the approaches for certain tasks. Not everything requires maximal intensity and effort, because if you put too much effort and time and into everything, you'll be pretty burnt out pretty quickly. And for me, that intensity comes back to my own experiences of burnout, both in sport and in business, and realizing that you can't be on full steam intensity at all times. You have to kind of look at this like with athletes do, with periodization and breaking that down into kind of various parts of effort. And I think it definitely is important for that side of things. But in short, it kind of is that mind-body connection that tells you that things are stepping up a gear. And with that, it usually means that you care more about that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, and how exciting it is to care, actually. How
Yeah,
boring it would be if we didn't care,
completely.
right? And that stepping up the gear, it's also like it's in those moments of intensity that magic gets created, right? So most exciting moments in life are actually intense, and as you correctly said, we be always in that? No, but even peaceful meditation can be intense, right? In a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about so intensity is kind of energy of focus of attention where we do it's a certain energy of that. So, and I'm very curious. Obviously, you were in a competitive moments. It's like competing nationally and internationally. It's a certain level of intensity. How did you manage to stay in those crucial moments, when you were a 400 meters hurdle athlete, right? When you about to go and run, how do you stay in your full focus? How do you manage to like channel that energy into exactly what needed?
I think for me, the thing it always came down to, and it still comes down to me now, both in business, right, is that you have to have the kind of belief in yourself that you've done the hard work already that's needed to be able to carry out that task. Whether that's for me getting around the 400-meter track and jumping 10 times as quickly as I could, or if it's going into a boardroom or a one-to-one session or delivering a task, right? You need to be in a position where you have that confidence that you've done the work that it takes to set you up to be able to deliver and let it go and happen. Because if you don't, you're going to be making it up on the spot, or you're going to be mumbling and fumbling about, and it's going to be really it's going to make it so much harder for yourself. And for me, looking back on my athletic journey and some of the best times that I had, both from a fun perspective and also the fastest times that I ran, they were always the times that I enjoyed the most. And for me, looking back on my journey as an aspiring young athlete, I got to a good level. I ran for GB juniors a few times. I won a few national titles at different age groups, but I never quite got to that next step. And for me, looking back on that now, it comes down to a various few things around fear of failure, around pressure, around the environment's not being right for me. I got a bit unlucky with certain things throughout my career that ultimately led me out of the sport. But for me, if I'm not enjoying something, then what's really the point in it? And that's not always the case for everything. We'd be in a very fortunate position if everything that we did every day was fun and we loved it. But for me, as I say, it's that enjoyment. And then when you're enjoying stuff, you're putting more effort into it. It feels natural. You get into the elements of flow, and time just flies by. And you want to have that kind of jumping out of bed in the morning as much as you can. But as I say, it's not always that easy. And from my perspective, looking back on that, it's been a great kind of journey to get to this point. But I've also, as I've matured, as I've kind of been away from sport for a long time, I can appreciate things a lot more now with a kind of older and wiser head than I did when I was, say, 16, 17 and 18, where they're very goal orientated, and you forget to actually enjoy the process. And it's easy to say that, but I think that's the sort of skill or kind of situations you need to learn to become comfortable with, so that you can take that into the next stages in your life, whether that's academia or kind of work.
Yeah, so that's a very important point, that actually you said that some of your best performance was when you were able to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And you highlight this kind of intrinsic belief in self, right?
Absolutely.
And trusting the process. And that's what is so important when somebody goes an important board meeting or important transaction. It's like, okay, remember that you have done all this work and try to have some fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that will help to unleash the energy even more.
Yeah, completely.
And I'm sure you spoke about this setback, right? And it's tough for the athlete, and it's also tough, like I work sometimes with the leaders who say, oh my gosh, if I'm not going to make the partner in the cycle, or if this deal doesn't close, I don't know how am I going to handle it. I don't know what am I going to tell myself about myself, right? And yet those are the moments where probably the biggest growth and the biggest opportunities are. How did you handle that? How did you manage to channel your intensity into something else?
It's a good question. And if I'm honest, when I was younger, I don't think I did navigate it that well. I thought that I was doing things for me, but actually it's quite easy to kind of do things for the reward or the outcome, or for other people, whether that's for the pleasing of other people or the fear of letting other people down, or more importantly, which we see nowadays more, is letting yourself down. And as I say, it kind of comes down to that identity side of things, and how much, if you're putting your all into something day in, day out, and if it's like kind of something you're passionate about, then you can easily get the thing and the identity muddled up a bit too much. And the more entangled that gets and becomes, the more challenging it is to let things go, or to be able to see the wood for the trees and focus on the outcome and the process. And from my perspective, as I say, I don't think I handled it very well when I was younger. But for me, even over the last few years, I've been having therapy around kind of not just from kind of trauma-based therapy, but also for me to improve myself. I feel like I kind of got to a place where the work was almost done around the certain reasons for starting. But now I'm in this position where, why would I stop now? Because I've made this much progress over the last few years and I've become the person I am now. Why would I stop here? So for me, I'm seeing him once a month. And one of the key focuses that we talk about and that he really likes to talk about, especially, is if you take care of the process, then the results will take care of themselves. You don't even have to really think about the results. But if you know that you're putting in that work, you know that you have the right systems, you know you have the right teams around you and support systems, the results are almost inevitable. And if they don't, and you have put in all that work and all that effort and you've done the right things, you can at least say that you've tried, and that more often than not, you got unlucky. And I think that side of things about always wanting to improve and always wanting to learn, but focusing on the processes and taking that step back is really important, but something that I'm still navigating today. I'm definitely not really very good at celebrating the small wins and actually acknowledging that I'm progressing or I've already achieved a lot of the goals that I've once wanted, and ultimately we, especially coming from high performance backgrounds, we have very high standards for ourselves. Because why wouldn't you? And it kind of comes down to me, especially as now as a founder, whether I'm doing calls, pitches, whatever, selling things, if I don't back myself, then who will? And that kind of comes down to so many different things. And I could talk forever about the delusional optimism that you have to have for yourself to be able to achieve your goals. And if the goals don't scare you, then they're not big enough. And like all those cliche sayings, but they're cliche for an absolute reason.
Yeah, and you say a very important thing. It's like focusing on the process, whether process of preparation or process and joy of competition or a deal closure, right? It helps us to become more detached from the outcome.
Yeah.
And that creates this lightness, right? And then we actually can unleash more energy.
Yeah.
And something that you said about, and the things might not go your way and you've been unlucky. Well, I would say, what if there is something better around the corner?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I've seen recently around whether you get a bad email or something happens that you don't want to happen, but then you have to adapt and overcome that situation and think of a solution. And then actually the solution that you've come up with is better than the original thing in the first place. But you wouldn't have got there if it wasn't something that didn't go your way or break or something happen, because ultimately it's easy. If something is working, why would you change it? But ultimately that kind of comes down to, do I want to strive for more? Am I happy with being fine, or do I want to sacrifice what I have here at this level to be able to get to that next level? And you have to let go of those things to be able to unlock and take a hold of the next one.
Yeah, and might be you're not even seeing something. And I'm curious that you said, I'm not so good of celebrating still. So what are you celebrating? Let's celebrate here now.
I mean, to be honest, it's the small things really. And like, what do I mean? The simple things in life are really the things that make the biggest
Celebrate
difference.
something for you, for your business. And
Exactly.
now.
For sure. And whether that's achieving goals or signing partnerships or kind of more commercial based milestones, right, in business. But then actually you could be celebrating the things of having those sorts of independence or the freedom or living the life that you've always dreamed of, or being able to go on a bike ride in the day when the weather's really nice, and for me, not having to ask my boss if I can do that. Those are the sorts of things that I take for granted and don't really celebrate, because to be frank, I set the athlete place up when I was still a university student. So I've never really had a proper job. And so I don't really know any different. And to be honest, even looking at that and hearing that out loud is like how I sound lucky or privileged and to be in that situation. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't enjoy it. And it doesn't mean that other people in similar situations shouldn't enjoy it. And also, I guess there's many pros and cons of it,
Yeah. And if intensity is energy, then actually we create this positive energy through small moments of celebration.
Absolutely.
And you said, a part that helped you perform in critical high stakes moments is actually the self-trust and the self-belief, right? So if you remind yourself, oh my gosh, it's actually me who created that life, that I can have freedom, then that would give you more energy to create what's next.
Yeah, it comes back to that saying around filling up your own cup, or you can't help somebody, as I can't exactly remember, filling somebody else's cup if you have nothing in your own cup, right? And I think that kind of comes down to intensity and how you navigate it and how you kind of manage it. You have to be able to be in a position to be able to navigate the intensity in the first place, to be able to thrive off of it. And whether you're looking after yourself, whether that's from, I don't know, exercising or meditation or eating well and sleeping well or spending time with people that make you feel good, those are the sorts of things that almost have to happen before those tasks even start, because you're not going to be able to essentially create the best output if you're not looking after yourself. And I think for me, having navigated burnout both in sport and in kind of work, you can't really do much if you're feeling burnt out. So it's so important to make sure that you navigate that and you have those systems in place.
Yes. So it's exactly, it's taking care of all four different words of existence, right? And remembering taking care of your sleep, of your nutrition, right? And paying attention to that energy. So what we already said, focus on the process, enjoy the process, bring some joy, right? Self-belief and self-trust. Become detached from the outcome to the extent possible. And remember to celebrate and take care of yourself. So you also train with some really top Olympic champions, right? So and so you are able to observe how they handle those moments of intensity. And sometimes we see more when we're from the outside.
Yeah.
So what do you see in them that you could apply in your business as well?
To be honest, I think it kind of comes down to what I mentioned earlier around, and I used the word kind of freeingly, around periodization. So what I mean by that essentially is you can't, as an Olympic athlete or an elite athlete in sport, you can't train at 100% all the time, because you have to have rest days, you have to have recovery days. And what I see in that, whether that's through my experiences or the athletes that I've been training with, is that you can't always be on. You have to have focuses throughout the season, or focuses throughout the next, or how it works. They work in micro cycles, mesocycles, and macro cycles. So essentially small, medium, large. So you have big goals, you have medium-term goals, and you have small-term goals. And then you have the processes that allow you to navigate each of those goals or times. And that really, for me, is something that you should look at in business or in kind of in the work life, because there's going to be things that are more important than others. Therefore, they require more effort than others. Therefore, you need to be positioning yourself or your processes differently. And I think for me, it kind of comes down to that effort distribution as the main thing, really. And I think as well as like seeing these elite athletes and knowing that when they're lying on the sofa in the evening or during the day, they're still technically training in such, because their recovery is as important as their actual training. If they don't recover from the hard work they've done in the morning, they're going to still be tired for the next morning. And so that's part of it. And it would be easy to feel guilty for not being intensity in training and in recovery, because actually you can't do that all the time. And this for me is how I've kind of navigated and used my experience in sport to navigate how I am as a leader or as a founder or as an entrepreneur. And ultimately realizing that periodization of effort and periodization around kind of actually implementing those processes is really important, because you can't be on all the time. Even if you think you can, you'll probably find out the hard way. And one thing for me that I've noticed as well, though, is there's a lot out there around kind of work-life balance. I think that's very individual to everyone and each to their own. I'm not going to be sprouting nonsense about what they should do or what you shouldn't do. But for me, I think it's important for me to look after myself up here and in my body, because if I feel good and if I look good, feel good, and I'm carrying myself a certain way, that shows, and that energy attracts to other people. They notice that the way I carry myself, it comes back to what I was saying about if I don't back myself, then who will? And if I'm going into a sales pitch or a demo call and I'm not backing myself completely, then they're going to see straight through me and it's not going to carry over.
Yeah. So it's an importance of taking care of your energy with this periodization. I like
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
the recovery is as important as a moment of competition or when you
yeah,
close the deal. And what I'm really curious about is, it's okay when we are here having peaceful conversation to speak about that. And we can set all those great intentions, right? And yet, what normally derails intensity is when the moment of fear comes in. When that's like in business, when finances become more difficult, or there is some bigger setback and identity becomes under threat.
yeah.
What helps you to recover in that moment?
That is a great question. I think any early stage founder, especially as a first time founder like myself, is learning on the job a lot about how to navigate that, but also other things. And I think for me, it's about the community and having other people in your circle that really understand how it feels, or being able to offload certain things and not bottle it up. I, as I say, see a lot in my kind of career and short career so far in business as I did in my sport career. I was very fortunate to have such amazing training partners and friends around me that made me feel safe, that made me feel seen, that made me feel like I could be vulnerable, just like I do now in business. So we're based in Loughborough University. They have a startup incubator. So obviously we're based in there with other startups and other founders. So to be in those sorts of environments around other people that are going through it together, that are having the highs and lows together, and to be able to feel like on certain days, if somebody's really going through it, it almost kind of makes you feel less alone, because you can see what they're going through and be like, oh, that was me yesterday, or that was me last week, or that was me 27 minutes ago. And you just know how it can change so quickly. And having those people around you, I'm very fortunate to have such great friends and such great colleagues, but also to share the wins with, because they are as guilty as I am about not celebrating the wins. And because there's always more to be done, there's always a bigger milestone, there's always another email that needs replying to, or another kind of presentation that needs making, so it's really important for me to make sure that the people I'm around and the energy that I'm feeding off is there. Otherwise I get in my head quite a lot. And I think, as you say, and you mentioned around that fear of things, I have always had a bit of a knack around kind of catastrophizing things a bit too much and getting in my own way. So whether that's a fear of failure based on previous experiences or environments that I've been in where I've not had the feedback and support that I've needed, or, as I say, that fear of failure around and the identity and how these things all kind of link together. For me, I kind of almost am so emotionally attached to my business and what we're doing that sometimes it really damages the day-to-day operations of the business and the growth of the business, because I hear people kind of almost like, there's that analogy of, if your life was a movie, what would people be sat on the sofa shouting at you, right? And for me, it kind of is almost just like people saying, get out of your own way, because I know, and when I have those good days, I know that I can do anything. I feel like I can do anything. I know that I've put in the years of hard work and I've got the great people around me and what we're doing is great. And then there's the days where I feel like there's that black cloud over your head and it's a struggle and you feel negative around things, or you're only seeing the negatives. And then you just hear those people in the background shouting, get out of your own way. Just send the email, or just make the phone call, or just do the thing, rather than kind of just thinking, oh, but what if? And that's a real challenge. And to kind of caveat that, especially around that statement of I'll be happy when. And if you have that kind of, I'll be happy when I make this amount of money, I'll be happy when we sign off this deal, I'll be more confident when I do this or do that, then you're already making life so much harder for yourself. And if I'm honest with you, I should be listening to my self-talk right now a lot better.
Well, you can re-listen to that conversation, and
Yeah.
and you said a couple important things. Having community. You also spoke about actually working with a therapist. I would always say work with a therapist coach. For me, it's just non-negotiable for myself, because it's very different to be in our own world ourselves, because the old patterns come up. And of course, celebrating. And what is interesting is you were talking about how you dealt with those challenges in athletics, or what you see top athletes doing, focusing on the process, on one small step at a time, right? Becoming more emotionally detached. And it's applying exactly those in business.
Yeah.
Right? But in the moment, it feels harder, especially when you get into the head, right? And we all have this challenge. It's like, what would take you more to your body? You know how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing as well. You know yourself better than anyone. You know the things that make you feel good. You know the people that make you feel good and who you want to be around when you're feeling low, or you're not feeling like you have that creative spark. And I think, as I say, it kind of almost comes down to those systems and the self-awareness to know your own kind of symptoms and cues. So if I'm starting to feel low, or if I know that I don't sleep very well, I go to bed too late, or if I don't exercise for a few days, I start to feel a bit like kind of sluggish. And if I do those things, or if I don't do those things, my mood is quite dependent on that. And therefore my confidence, and therefore my ability to, whether that's kind of show myself better on phone, on calls, or on meetings, or in person, or to have the confidence to approach and tick off the harder tasks, rather than just like kind of ticking off the small tasks that don't really do too much. I think there's so much for that momentum effect, and building the momentum, and knowing the things that make you feel good, and building that momentum to be able to then show that in other areas of life, because there's a trickle down effect in almost everything.
Yeah. So it's a lot of wisdom here. And it's basically what I'm hearing. It's about creating the process for the low moments that will come, so that, we don't need to overthink. It's just like, okay, I feel now this is a slow moment coming. My energy is dropping. What's a micro steps? What's the process? Whether it's couple breaths, getting out for a quick walk. And sometimes there is a contradiction, because when we're preparing for important transaction, for important conversation, it feels like, oh, I just need to push through. I need to do more research, or whatever it's needed to be done. And actually, probably the opposite is true. Actually, taking a little micro step of rejuvenating our energy and this self-trust will probably create much more significant impact.
Yeah, and realizing that the world probably won't end if you don't reply to that email right now, or if you don't send this thing or do this thing right now. Usually things can wait. Usually. And that's often kind of the case where, for myself especially, I feel like that when I'm not as productive as I would like to be, I try and push through it, because I then am feeling more productive, and therefore have less guilt, or things like that, which ultimately don't quite relate. But it's a challenge that we're definitely navigating.
Yeah, and might be not replying to emails straight away. That's actually probably the best thing, because you would come up with so much better answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's basically taking a view from the higher perspective, right? Creating a little bit of distance.
Yeah, we've all been there.
So yes. Okay, so thank you so much for your insights, and I hope that leaders will think of their own processes for the moment when they are winning and for the moment when it feels that they are kind of in a tunnel vision and
Yeah,
this guilt feeling or fears start creeping in.
yeah,
What's a small processes to rejuvenate the energy, and also remembering that the rest day is training day.
absolutely, absolutely. Take care of the the processes, and the results will take care of themselves.
Exactly. Get out of your own way, as you said.
Absolutely.
So Joe, thank you. And where can listeners find you?
My name, Joe Fuggle, is pretty easy to find. To be fair, there aren't many Joe Fuggles out there, so just Joe Fuggle on LinkedIn, or at the Athlete Place, theathleteplace.com. That's our project at the moment.
Wonderful. Thank you, and good luck for the athlete place. I'm sure it's going to be really successful
Thank
if
you
you
very
follow
much.
the process. Yeah.
Thank you for
All the
having me.